Welcome back to another Spilling the Tea with Jesus, a Sunday recap of church in under 5 minutes. We're continuing our church series of Believing for More, which is based on Ephesians 3:20, that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine. But here's something that hit me today. What if the greatest more isn't more blessings, more money, more success, or more stuff? What if the greatest more is more of Him at a deeper level? Second Chronicles 7:14 says that God's people will humble themselves, pray, and seek His face, and turn away from their wicked ways, and He will hear from heaven. But notice there is action on our part. So don't be one prayer short. Don't stop seeking Him one prayer before the breakthrough. And that brings us to worship. Because what exactly is worship? We tend to think of worship as music. The band starts playing, we start singing, that's worship. But worship is so much more than lyrics, melody, or tempo. The Hebrew word shahah, which I know I'm saying wrong, carries the idea of bowing down, lowering yourself before someone greater than you. So here's the uncomfortable question. It's not if you're worshiping, it's what you're worshiping, because we all worship. Some worship money, success, our possessions, celebrities, which is the worst thing to worship, our children, our relationships, and sometimes even ourselves. Jesus says in John 4:23 that true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. And worship isn't confined to what happens while the music is playing on a Sunday morning. Obedience is worship. Giving is worship. Prayer is worship. Serving is worship. How you work is worship, and how you live is worship. And then the pastor started talking about the expressions of worship. And as football season is right around the corner, I know you know where I'm headed with this. The pastor reminds us that why is it completely normal for us to scream, clap, jump, throw our hands in the air over a football game, but we're afraid that somebody might think we're weird if we get that excited about God. And lifting our hands can represent three things: surrender, victory, and testimony. And in Psalms 43 says, He puts a new song in my mouth, and many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in Him. Worship also changes something. Sometimes before God changes your circumstances, worship changes your perspective. But then we got to the part of today's message that really stuck with me. Worship is warfare. And John 10:10 tells us that a thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The thief, that represents false leaders, spiritual deception, and the devil. And one thing that the enemy would love to convince you is that it's all optional. Worship is optional. Going to church, optional. Prayer, optional. Seeking God, optional. Until one day you wake up and even God Himself has become optional to you. But Ephesians 6 reminds us that we are in spiritual battle. Judah is facing an enemy that they do not have the power to defeat. And King Jehoshaphat prays, "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." And then what happens? They put the worshipers in front of the army. Think about that. Before the soldiers came the worshipers. They put God in front of the battle. They put worship in front of the battle. And God fought the battle and won. So maybe you've got a battle you're facing right now. Maybe instead of waiting until the battle is over to worship God, maybe you need to worship Him on the way into battle. Put prayer in front of it. Don't look at prayer as your last resort, and put worship in front of it. Put God in front of it, because worship isn't just music. Worship is surrender. Worship is obedience. Worship is witness. Worship changes perspective. And if you like this type of content, please like and follow. And I'll see you next Sunday for more Spilling the Tea with Jesus. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Love you. Bye.